Hi everyone, it's Don, and I hope you're having a fantastic week. Well, if you're thinking on traveling to a country like China that needs a visa to get in there, they also have exemptions, and they have it called the 144-hour exemption. And I'll explain to you a little bit about what that means and whether or not you actually need a travel visa. Do you not need one? Because so many people were confused, including myself, when I started researching my own trip leaving from Shanghai. So first off, think of Shanghai as a layover city. And what the 144 hours means is you have to be landing in Shanghai from another country and transitioning to a different country. So it can't be, I'm flying from Canada, landing in Shanghai, staying for 5 days, and flying back to Canada. I can fly back to the United States and then back to Canada, but I can't do a return trip. That doesn't qualify. What qualifies is only if you're going from one country into China into a different country. The same goes for the cruise. If you're going in and you're heading off on a cruise that leaves from Shanghai, doesn't have any other Chinese stops, has, say, Japan. Like, for instance, my cruise is the best of Japan. It leaves Shanghai, goes to 3 ports in Japan, and comes back to Shanghai. That means I don't have any other stops other than Shanghai. So I am leaving for Canada, landing in Shanghai. I exit within 144 hours and I travel to Japan. Now, on my way back, I'm coming from Japan, transitioning through China, flying back to Canada. You see, it's 3 different countries. That's allowed. So a lot of people get confused and saying, I don't understand. Do I need a visa? Do I not need a visa? To the best of my knowledge, this is how it works. And the cruise industry, you're able to do it. A lot of people have horror stories of getting to the airline and the airline looks at your documents and say, no, you need a visa. And it's just so confusing a lot of times because they have 24-hour visas, 72-hour visas, they have 144-hour visas, they have work, business, travel, leisure, student, you name it, they have all these different types of visas. The easiest way to figure it out is to call your airline you're traveling with. Tell them your exact itinerary, and then they will explain it to you because they're the ones who will turn you away. It won't be the cruise line because you'll already be in China. It will be either at the airport or it'll be the airline itself won't even let you get on the plane. If they let you get on the plane, then your documentation is normally in order. Not always, but normally. The big trick is to make sure your documentation is correct. They're going to want to make sure you have a valid passport. Your passport has to be valid for 6 months at least after your date of return, not the day of leaving. So if you're on a 30-day cruise and your expires in 6 months from before you leave and it expires 5 months later, that doesn't count. You will not qualify. It has to be at least 6 months after your final date of the trip. That's a very important little aspect to remember. Also, you will need to have proof of exit. In other words, if you're going on a cruise, you need your booking and your documentation for your cruise when you arrive at the airport to show them you have an exit strategy for China with a set date, a set ship, a set time, a set cabin. Same thing if you were just flying out. You would just need the airline ticket saying, I have this seat on this plane, on this flight, on this day. Everything's good as long as you're within that 6-day, 144-hour timeline. That is, again, one of those important things. You don't ever want to go over that timeline at all. And you don't ever want to not have those documentations. You'll also need, say you're flying in 3 days early and then hitting your cruise just to make sure you get there in time and rest because of, jet lag and all this. It is a 15-hour flight from Canada, for instance. You're going to want to have your booking numbers and your reservations to the hotel and have the hotel phone number with you because they will often call the phone number of the hotel to double check that you have that reservation. Because some people could book a hotel online, print out their documentation, cancel the hotel room, and then they go and visit their relatives and try and sneak in, that kind of stuff. So they will actually call the hotel and make sure that that hotel reservation is still valid. That goes for visiting Disneyland and in Shanghai and all the different hotels around there. So it really can be confusing when you Google it and you look it up online. If you're completely worried about it, just get yourself an entry-exit visa, travel visa, good for 30 days. It's going to cost you some money, it's going to cost you some time, but you can get rid of a lot of your anxiety about that 144 hours. But if you don't want to pay the money and you think you're entitled to do it, you have that 3-country parlay with China in the middle, same thing coming back. You should be safe, there should be no issues, but a lot of people just, it's one of those things that you see people stuck at the border all the time at the airport in Shanghai because the entry rules can change in China overnight and month to month. And they don't inform even their own airline. Their airline, Air China, is run by the government of China. And they don't always get the updates of the new visa. And sometimes they'll refuse people entry even though the rule has changed and they do qualify. Or they get the 144 hours wrong. When you arrive at, say, 1 o'clock in the morning in Shanghai, that's not the time the clock starts for your 144 days. Your 144 days starts at 0000 hours the following day of your arrival. A lot of people don't realize that, and they get held up because of that little detail, but that detail is almost 24 hours extra time. So many things to consider. Really, really do your research. If you really have any issues, contact the airline that you're flying on because they're the ones who have the most up-to-date information 99 times out of 100. Their information is more correct than every place else, especially Google and especially YouTube, because what I'm telling you right now can change tomorrow. But as of today, this is the way that 144-hour visa works. You can transition, exit and entry as long as you're coming from one country, transitioning to another country, not a return trip. That's the key. It cannot be a return trip. That is considered you're visiting China. That's not considered you're transitioning from Canada back to Canada. Doesn't work that way. So I hope you like this update. I hope it explains it just a little bit more. That's the big takeaway. The 3-country link with China in the middle. If you're doing that and you're within six days of arriving and exiting China, you should be perfectly fine. But if you're in doubt, get yourself that visa. It only costs you a couple $100 at the most. It can take a lot of worry off your mind. I know I qualify and I don't need one, but I'm going to put my papers in and get one anyway. Why not take the extra precaution? The worst thing I can think of is to be stuck in a communist country that's mad at Canada right now because of our political alliances and that stuff going on with the mobile phone companies and crazy government stuff like that. And even if you look on the website, it says, exercise high degree of caution when traveling to China if you're Canadian, which is one step higher than if you're traveling as an American. So one of those rare cases where traveling as a Canadian is more dangerous than traveling as an American to the countries. How did that happen? We don't even have a tank. So I don't know who's threatened by us. I don't understand. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. You want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.